I mean, my immediate thought is like, why are they fighting here? There's a Baron up, right? Like the next dragon's gonna be Elder. Why are we in the middle of the map? All the camps are up, red buff's up. They have a giant wave in top. I mean, everyone, it's LS, and today I'm going to be ranking some of the greatest 1v5 plays of all time sent over by you, the fans. And so let's get started.
Wants to buy time for Danny. 2v5 is possible. I mean, you're not going to stop the Baron, but you might get a team fight. He's going to shoot. You're kidding me! Cesare fights early. Kill number 1. Here comes kill number 2. Danny's in for number 3. For 4. The king of pentakill. Oh my God! You gotta be kidding me! What was that?
I remember this pretty vividly, because this is the pretty inexcusable penta, but obviously it's very hype when you're watching it. But this is the thing that I think a lot of people think sent Team Liquid into permanent tilt, and that they never mentally recovered from in the series, because obviously it's such a crazy situation. But also, it was a pretty defining moment for Danny, because I think that instantly just skyrocketed him to being a fan favorite. One of the things that people might remember about this play, I'm pretty sure, is that Baron levels up, right? Yeah, so one of the things about this is that Baron levels up, and this caused a lot of controversy, obviously, on Reddit, and there was a lot of arguments about stuff like this happening over Baron, and that's actually what allows Danny to come in and do this. And you can actually see it happen ever so slightly. The Baron goes down, and then it moves up. And so because of that, the HP goes up, the smite ends up missing, and that's what allows Danny to actually get excited off the Baron and then chain it all together on all the other champions. And so a lot of people did say that Santorin should just make sure that it doesn't need to be a perfect smite in order to get the Baron here, because there's no jungler. So he should actually just let it go lower, so there's no chance of something like this happening. That was one of the arguments. And I think that that's actually pretty reasonable, because I think that's a thing that actually a lot of junglers do in solo queue, and sometimes even in scrims, to 100% make sure that something can't be stolen. Typically, this will be against like global abilities like Ezreal Ultimate or like Jinx Rocket or something like that. They'll make sure that the neutral is low enough to where there's no chance that smite misses, because there's not a need for the perfect smite. For me, while the play is like very hype and it's very cool for Danny, I think that the whole thing is just very weird in general. And if I remember my feelings on it, I felt pretty weird about the play. So there's a lot going on here, and also even like the build up to it. I think in hype it could be higher, but if we're talking about like actual plays, there's a lot of it that's not just Danny, and so for that, I'd put it as C. So I think the Tristana 1v5 is way more impressive, because there's communication, if I recall, with him and Impact in the comms that eventually got shown on stream. And in that, I mean, Danny actually has to utilize mechanics, and he has to utilize a lot of other things. Whereas in the Team Liquid play, there's a component of... there's a lot of variables that are actually not in his control that have to go his way in order for it to turn out the way that it did. But I think the Lord Danny's Regards nickname ended up coming in because I would give nicknames to a lot of players. I think the most iconic one right now that exists is Fudge Factor, right? Which got turned into a shirt, turns up on signs everywhere now. It's sort of like the whole thing, right? And so I was just doing that for a lot of people that, you know, would join co-streams, live views, etc. Crowny's Comet, because he always misses Ash Arrows. Nemesis was called Lemon, because, you know, the Chinese community would say that he's very sour. Instead of salty, in China they say sour instead of salty, and so lemonisis, right? And then for Danny was always in the stream all the time, and so that, you know, LDR, I kept talking about how people need to stop building Collector and they have to build Lord Dominik's, because Lord Dominik's is just a better item, and everyone was building Collector, no one was building LDR. And then I believe the first player, at least that I noticed, that did it was Danny in LCS, and then it spread like wildfire. So I just LDR'd Lord Danny's Regards.
They have double Mountain Drakes. It speaks to their strengths of being able to burst down the Baron, and they're hoping to get Rock to pull up.
It's rooted, they're going!
Teleport's coming in! Curtain Call and Wish have already been used, and Trick is running away! Expect gets caught down. He's got a PA, remember, but he needs Mega... Deleted! Remember, I've seen one! A G2 or a aced!
the picture perfect. It's the picture perfect slicing maelstrom, right? I'll be honest in that this basically was deleted from my mind. Like, as I'm watching it, it's almost kind of like I'm watching it for the first time again. But when you see it, it doesn't make sense. I mean, my immediate thought is like, why are they fighting here? There's a Baron up, right? Like, the next dragon's gonna be Elder. Why are we in the middle of the map? All the camps are up, red buff's up. They have a giant wave in top. I mean, to me, yes, the slicing maelstrom's cool, but like, what are both of these teams doing right now? It's the same thing as Danny, kind of, right? But I guess it's not as dependent on. No, Danny's is actually just more hype than this one. We're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think Danny's is actually just more impressive when you consider just what are they both doing in terms of both teams. I think we'll now move it around. There's an emotional part of it for me that it's 2014 because that's the Worlds that Imp won, and Dandy and others that I lived with for 2 years. And Imp was my best friend in Korea, and so getting to see him win was very, very nice. And knowing that the organization and the coaching staffs and so many people that I lived with, and I saw what they went through, how they practiced, and the amount that they cared about everything, that was very meaningful for me. So I would say that is probably my favorite Worlds, because it was also the first Worlds where I was still very, very new to League of Legends in a lot of ways, and it meant a lot to me in that regard. Other than that, I would say that it's 2016.
From getting in, but BDD able to fight this one out. In goes Life. Another solo player is going to land. Good exhaust onto BDD. No one in this 4 members is going to be taken just yet as Def gets over the wall. He's fighting straight up with Ruler. Over the wall is the Ezreal, but he's taken down. Tempered Fate unable to help him. As Doran's still fighting, by the way. BDD able to get that double kill. And I think maybe the ruse was a bit too cunning. Oh, the Chovy! Chovy gets back in the double snap. Yoshik gonna bite down the Leona, and it takes another turn.
Is this where he miracles it? Yeah, this is where he miracles it, right? Yes. The Fog of War. Yep. Beautiful usage of the Fog of War. So Chovy, I mean, this was a part of the era also where Chovy, this is like the Church of Chovy era in general, where Chovy did not lose lane. You could not do anything to Chovy. Chovy would get ganked and live every time, and this is really cool. So I think the thing here is that this ward, I could be wrong, ends up cutting off at the edge, and so they don't know if Chovy just keeps walking down into the brush because of where this ward's placed. And I think what that ends up doing is Chovy utilizes the Fog of War on the right-hand side, and that's how he makes the whole play happen. It's so clean. That was very clean. Not so often that you get plays like this anymore, because he's also doing it against so many good players, and that's the other really impressive thing. So for me, the Chovy, I think the Chovy play is an S because it just utilizes a lot of things. He has to think about it in the moment. There's a lot of intuition that's also going on here, and he's doing it against such good players in an era of League of Legends where things are becoming increasingly more difficult. So I might move this to Z, but for now we'll just put it S. I have to see how the other two plays are. So the Church of Chovy meme, and I think Chovy's reaction to it, is actually because the interview, Inven Quest, informed him about it. And normally in media at LCK, sometimes the journalist or the media person can ask the players to do certain poses. And so I think that he was informed about the Church of Chovy, and I think the pose that they had them do was the other players like praying to Chovy, and that's how it started, at least for Chovy. And then, yeah, I mean, I would frequently reference it on LCK. I feel really happy about that because it was actually brought up to me not too long ago. I want to say it was like last summer I had a meeting, and it was actually highlighted that like one of the really big narratives that has ever come out of LCK in recent years, brand-wise for a player, is the Church of Chovy, and it's the most iconic. And so I feel good about that.
Double TP. Yeah, down.
Just a single.
Yeah.
Hoodie already there, but Faker's going to the flash wall. The stuff's going to land to the hands of damage. One picked up already. The re-engage for Faker's only a knock-up. He's still 1 versus 3. The chase forward. Ming wants everything. MLXG rather. No, it's going to be him traded down to the turret. Faker pulling him into the damage output. Uzi waiting the wings, though.
I think that the saying that he went Super Saiyan would be very, very correct for this Worlds. I think this is also where he developed the Galio reputation that he ended up having. And I think Rookie also ended up having like a Galio instance as well in his own ways. And I think that, Rookie and Faker, very iconic for their Galios in those eras. This is where it really did look like Faker did not have teammates that were even remotely similar in skill level to him at this Worlds in terms of performance. And it really was, I think, the few iterations in League of Legends where it really truly does look like one player versus 9 in a setting. And since, the 2017, 2018, 2019 eras, there was actually kind of a lull period in some ways. And it wasn't until this most recent Worlds where Zeka ended up, being Mystic Gohan or Ultimate Gohan, whatever you want to call it, and showing up in a way that actually made people say this looked like Faker, in that, in his own way.
Interest.
It's their game.
And the problem is that whilst here it was able... Oh!
That's the dredge line. The enchanted crystal arrow comes out, but nobody's dead yet. Oh, no, Womne, your Gwen. Snip, snip, snip. Needlework doing the job. Vito gets out of range of the Syndra ultimate by some time. Manages to trade his life 1 for 1. The Meganar comes back because the stopwatch comes out. Here it's going low, less than 1,000. He's taken out. Inspired needs the resets to break the hearts of all Misfits fans, but Kobe stays alive. The shield bow keeps him up. Finally goes down. Inspired's got the reset. It's a 2v1. Looking for another. Razork's in so much trouble. Inspired with the blade of the Ruined King. Viego shuts down Misfits for the ace. The pentakill. And 9 members on the Rift are dead.
So I think I know what clip this is. I think I was watching this game with Nemesis when this all happened. And I remember thinking, this is what I always wanted to see when I was looking at Viego when he first came out, and hoping that this is the Viego moment. It is the chain resets into the possessions, and I felt like this really embodied what this champion was actually all about and the type of things that everyone wanted to see from him. So it was amazing. This was very iconic. This is a very, very iconic play. I mean, it's insane. So I think that the inspired play is really good, but I feel like Chovy has to utilize more in his play. The inspired play is really cool, and it's very, very, very hype and everything. Chovy's, I think, utilizes more skill. And so for that, I'm going to have inspired at S, and then I'm going to move Chovy up to Z. Peak Viego, peak Yuumi, peak Aphelios. So I'm of the stance that peak Aphelios was beatable in that era, and people never drafted well against him. Peak Yuumi might actually be the most uninteractive of all of them. I think peak Yuumi was... I don't think peak Yuumi could actually be beat, because even the things in modern times that beat Yuumi that people just simply don't draft, I don't think they would have been able to beat Yuumi back in her previous iteration. Viego, I still think, could be beat with certain drafts, even though he would have definitely been very strong. So I would say that it goes Yuumi, and then probably Viego, just because of his versatility, and then Aphelios.
Secured by Ning as Jankos goes into the pin, gonna start the fight, but he's 1 versus 2. Perks coming in now as well. Ning taken very low, likely gonna be killed to start this fight off. Would did able to find some CC onto multiple people. Balan now gonna be the target of the Vanguard's edge. Wonder trying to make something happen, but G2 look like they just want to disengage this one now. They already got the pick onto the enemy jungler. Oh! So many people! That's the Aatrox damage, and TheShy makes it happen.
Oh, this is the very cool Aatrox. Yes, Aatrox. Very nice. So this is Aatrox in one of his strongest ever iterations. He's doing whatever he can, but I mean G2 also, they walk into. I mean, this is somewhat akin to the Smeb clip and whatnot. It just, I don't know. For me, it doesn't feel super amazing. I think it hits different if you were there or you're watching it for the first time, but I think that when you look at this in hindsight, I think it doesn't look as impressive as some of the other plays. And so for that reason, I think it's even... I'd have to watch it, actually. They're not actually fighting over anything either, yeah? Oh, no, they just fought over a Drake. So yeah, this has more reason than Smeb's play. That's definitely more than Smeb's, and I think they're both kind of on the same par here. You know what? We're just not gonna have an A rank. We're gonna have TheShy and Danny be on the same exact tier. I think from a series, it was Canyon's performance last Worlds, where everyone was up in arms on Twitter that Canyon was refusing to lose in the series. And when Dom1 finally did lose, everyone was very upset for Canyon. Because if there was one thing that could rival Zeka's performance at Worlds, it was definitely Canyon. Because if there's any way that he truly gets the nickname the Grand Canyon, I mean, it was his performance last Worlds. Anyways, thank you guys so much for sending these plays over, and feel free to let me know how you think I did in the comments below.